Now, thank you. Oh, now we know who gets attention around here. All right, with that, let me introduce your chair of the Democratic City Committee and the chair of this morning's caucus, City Councilor Jesse Letterman.
Good morning, Democrats. Good morning, Democrats. Ladies and gentlemen, we are calling the 2022 Springfield Democratic City Committee Caucus to order. If everybody could please take their seats, we will begin with the business of the caucus. Once again, we are calling the Springfield Democratic City Committee Caucus to order. We would ask that all guests and candidates please take their seats, spread out, and we will begin the business of the 2022 caucus. I'm Springfield City Councilor Jesse Letterman, Chairman of the Springfield Democratic City Committee, and it is my honor to convene today the SDCC Unified Caucus. Thank you all for joining us this morning, whether you are here virtually or whether you are here with us at Springfield Central High School in person. If you have not yet formally signed in, registration will be open until 10:45 a.m. You must be signed in by 10:45 a.m. to participate in the caucus process. I'd like to begin my introduction this morning by introducing our executive committee and ward chairs who have worked to make today possible. And we would ask for your attention as we honor the ward chairs and executive committee who work so hard to push our democratic process in Springfield forward. Please join me first in welcoming and recognizing our vice chair, Democratic State Committee woman Shanique Spalding. Not yet. I'm just recognizing you. You got to roll in a minute. I'm sorry. I should have been more clear about that. Please join me in welcoming our second vice chair, City Councilor Victor Davila. Our secretary, Camille Elliott from Ward 4. Our treasurer, Jeffrey F.X. O'Connell. And our outreach director, Linda Mattis O'Connell. We'd also like to recognize our ward chairs from Ward 1, School Committeeman Josiah Gonzalez. Filling in Ward 2 today, Democratic State Committee member Dan Kelly. Filling in Ward 3, Democratic State Committee member Leslie Campbell. In Ward 4, co-chairs Antonio DeLeslin and Camille Elliott. In Ward 5, Chair Healey Kelly. In Ward 6, author of the foremost political blog in the Pioneer Valley, attorney Matt Safransky. In Ward 7, Amy Loisel. And in Ward 8, a friend to us all, Ayanna Crawford. I'm now going to read a number of things that I am required by law to read. On June 3rd and 4th, delegates will gather virtually and in person at the DCU Center in Worcester, Massachusetts, to vote on our Democratic nominees for Governor, Lieutenant Governor, Secretary of State, Attorney General, and Auditor. Democratic candidates for these offices must receive 15% of delegate votes to appear on the primary ballot, and candidates who receive over 50% of the delegate vote are considered to be endorsed at the convention. Today, we will have an opportunity to elect up to 95 delegates and 32 alternates to represent the city of Springfield at the convention. Similar to this caucus, which has provided options for participation in person and virtually, this year's convention will take place in line with public health guidance at the DCU Center in Worcester, and the party will also provide virtual participation for those who do not wish to attend in person. Now, to read the affirmative action statement of the Massachusetts Democratic Party, please welcome the Vice Chair, Shanique Spalding.
Just gonna move this down to short people height. The Democratic Party of Massachusetts, to encourage full participation by all segments of the population, shall conduct affirmative action and outreach programs on behalf of the marginalized communities, including but are not limited to underrepresented ethnic and racial groups, persons with disability, LGBTQ+, individual workers, youth, low and moderate income people, women and senior citizens, Democratic Party organizations shall undertake affirmative action programs designed to encourage the fullest participation of all Democrats in all party activities at all levels, including leadership. These activities shall include, but not limited to, the process in which delegates are selected to the state and national Democratic Convention, elected or appointed party officials, party policy, platforms, and rules are formulated, and regular programs of voter registration, public education, and public relations. The Massachusetts Democratic Party strives to ensure delegate representation that reflects the whole community and thus has a number of add-on delegate seats chosen by the Democratic State Committee in the following categories: disabled, underrepresented, racial and ethnic minorities, youth, which includes ages 16 to 35 years old, and LGBTQ plus anyone who is eligible to run for delegate or alternate can apply to be an add-on delegate. The deadline to apply is April 9th, 2022, and applications can be found at massdems.org/convention. Thank you.
Thank you, Shanique. Delegates and alternates allocated to our community will be gender balanced within one, with non-binary delegates and alternates not counted in either the male or female category. To achieve gender balance using one ballot, when a non-binary candidate receives more votes than the next candidate, we reduce the total number of delegate and alternate positions that we have available by one and gender balance that number. When a non-binary gender candidate is seated, the gender that is seated after them is the opposite of the gender of the delegate seated before them. To run for delegate, one must be at least 16 years old. You must be here either in person or on Zoom unless you are serving in the armed forces and have previously notified the chair. You must have not publicly supported any candidate opposing a nominee of the Democratic Party in the current or previous partisan election while registered as a Democrat. If you were not a member of the Democratic Party at the time of such support, this restriction will not apply. To vote for delegates, you must be a registered Democrat before the close of registration at 10:45. Please check the sign-in list if you are not sure you are registered. The rules are set by the Democratic State Committee. The full rules, which are called the Method of Selecting Delegates to the 2022 Massachusetts Democratic State Convention, are available for anyone to review at massdems.org/caucus. The link will also be sent in the chat, and a physical copy is posted in the room to our left. We welcome all guests who are here as observers today. Please note that certain Democratic Party leaders and elected officials are considered ex officio delegates, meaning they do not run at a caucus to become delegates, and they do not count against our community's total allotted number of delegates. This includes the local committee chairs at the time of the convention, the members of the Democratic State Committee, and certain elected officials, including state legislators. For a full list of ex officio delegates, please see Section 31 of the Method of Selecting Delegates. Delegates and alternates pay a small fee, which helps the party defray the substantial cost of the convention. The fee is $75 for delegates and alternates, and this is due by March 21st, 2020. A late fee of $15 will apply after that date. The Mass Dems are committed to ensuring that all delegates are able to attend the convention, regardless of financial standing. A reduced fee of $50 is available for students, seniors, and persons with disabilities. If you are attending the convention and it presents a financial hardship, delegates and alternates may apply for a partial or full fee waiver at massdems.org/convention. At this time, please welcome our State Senator Adam Gomez to read a letter from the chairman of the Massachusetts Democratic Party, Gus Bickford.
Good morning, Democrats. Good morning, Springfield Democrats. Good morning, family, friends, and everybody else in between. Bear with me. Welcome to the 22 Democratic Caucus. Between now and March 12th, thousands of Democrats across the Commonwealth will convene in person and virtually to elect delegates and alternates to the 2022 Democratic State Convention. Delegates will gather at the DCU Center in Worcester and virtually on June 3rd and 4th, that's my birthday weekend, we partying, to endorse Democrats for statewide office, including the constitutional officers and gubernatorial candidates. whether you're joining your caucus in person or Zoom. I am grateful that you're part of this process. It's been a long and difficult time for many of us, and we must remain vigilant in protecting the health and safety of our friends, family, neighbors, and Massachusetts at large. That's why the 2022 convention will be a hybrid event. We hope we'll be able to come together in Worcester this June. However, delegates, alternates, and guests will be able to attend the convention virtually, and all voting will take place remotely. Over the coming months, we will be closely monitoring changes in public health guidelines and adjusting our plans accordingly. We'll update you on the details in the person and virtual participation options as they become available. We're committed to ensure that all delegates and alternates are able to attend the convention regardless of financial standing. I commend the generous committees and elected officials who subsidize the $75 convention fee. Students, seniors, and persons with disabilities are eligible for this reduced rate of $50. And any delegate or alternate experiencing financial hardship is encouraged to apply for a fee waiver. Whether you're a veteran caucus goer or the first-time attendee, thank you for joining us today and for your commitment for electing Democrats down the ballot. I'll see you in Worcester, in person or virtually, on June 3rd and 4th. Sincerely, the chairman of the Massachusetts Democratic Party, Gus Bickford.
Thank you, Senator Gomez, and I think we all share the same appreciation for finally having a state senator from the city of Springfield in Boston, Adam Gomez. We appreciate all our state senators. We haven't had a state senator with Springfield next to his name 15 years. Ladies and gentlemen, at this time, we will welcome the co-founder of the Springfield High School Democrats, Shane Dillon, to recognize local and statewide local and state candidates for office.
Good morning, everybody. As Councilor Letterman said, my name's Shane Dillon, and I'm the co-founder of Springfield's first chapter of High School Democrats. I want to say thank you. Thank you. I want to say hi and welcome to all our friends from the 413 and our guests. This time I'm going to recognize all the elected officials and candidates that are here today. Ed Collins from the Democratic State Committee, Chris Collins from the Springfield School Committee, Adam Gomez, Massachusetts State Senator, Orlando Ramos, State Representative, Michael Fenton, Ward 2 Springfield City Councilor and candidate for Governor's Council, Malo Brown, Ward 4 City Councilor, Melvin Edwards, Ward 3 City Councilor, Sidney Levin Epstein, candidate for State Senate, Carlos Gonzalez, State Representative, Cheryl Coakley Rivera, Register of Deeds, and Tim Allen, Ward 7 City Councilor, and Zeta Govin, Ward 8 City Councilor.
Thank you, Shane. At this time, we will move to the main portion of this section of the caucus, which is the statement from statewide candidates. I also see my colleague, City Councilor Justin Hurst, and his wife, School Committee Woman Denise Hurst. I should say School Committee Woman Denise Hurst and her husband, City Councilor Justin Hurst, are here. Thank you for joining us. And so at this time, we will be moving through the statewide offices from the top down. We will be going in alphabetical order. And at this time, we will welcome Democratic candidate for governor, State Senator Sonia Chang-Diaz.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Oh, come on now. Springfield, good morning. All right, a little bit better. All right, we're going to try and warm up this mic. I'm Sonia Chang-Diaz, and I come to you guys as a mother, as a former public school teacher, a building not too unlike this one, and also as Massachusetts' first Latina and first Asian American state senator. And you guys, yeah, thank you. You can give a hand clap for that. Not easy. And I am running for governor, you guys, because look, you look around, I look around, we see the same thing. Every day it is getting harder and harder for families to live here in our state. Now, over the past 13 years, I have been fighting like hell alongside some of you on Beacon Hill to tackle the biggest issues that we face as a state. And we have won big. $1.5 billion with a B in progressive education funding for our kids' schools, not least of which right here in Springfield, which will be the single biggest beneficiary of that Student Opportunity Act that I fought for 5 years to get passed. I looked up the numbers this morning. Springfield Public Schools is getting an additional $25 million this year, thanks to that bill. So I am proud to be able to say that we have won big fighting together, and nobody in this race has done more to bring resources to Springfield than I have. And we've also won on criminal justice reform, on police accountability, on LGBTQ rights. But in the course of that work, my friends, I have also seen firsthand that we have still got too many folks in government who are more concerned with holding on to their power rather than doing something with it. It does not have to be this way, and I am running to change that, because you know what? In Massachusetts, we absolutely can deliver debt-free, quality education to every one of our kids from birth into adulthood. And we can pass a Green New Deal to win the fight against climate change and create tens of thousands of good-paying new jobs right here in Massachusetts, especially for families that have been first in line for the harms of environmental degradation. And we can solve our housing crisis and close the racial wealth divide. All we need in order to do these things is we got to stand together. We got to see each other's fights as our own across regional lines, across racial ethnic lines, just like we did in the Student Opportunity Act fight. And my friends, we got to elect a governor who does not just say the right words, but who has shown that she will stand up, come off the sidelines, take on the toughest fights for our families and our communities, even when it is not politically convenient. My friends, I did not get into this race because I thought it was going to be easy, or because I saw a good career opportunity. I got into it because I have stood on the front lines with families across this state for my whole life. I know the urgency of this moment that we're living in, and I know the future that we can build together. And that is why I'm asking urgently and humbly for your vote and your support. I'm really proud in this race to count on the support of your wonderful, and he is wonderful, he's doing a phenomenal job, your Senator Adam Gomez, also Councilor Jesse Liederman in this race, and several of the awesome grassroots organizers and activists that you know right here in Springfield whose support I'm so glad to have. I ask for your support as well. Thank you so much for having me today, guys.
Our next candidate for governor, the Attorney General of the Commonwealth, Attorney General Maura Healey.
Buenos dias, Springfield. It's so great to be back here. Good morning to all of you. I'm Maura Healey. I'm running to be your governor. You know, Massachusetts is the greatest state in the country. We got so much going for us. But I know, because I've seen the last 7 years as your AG, that there are places and families in this Commonwealth that are not doing as well as they need to be. As governor, I promise you, I'm going to be about prosperity. I'm going to be about opportunity. I'm going to be about mobility. And I am here this morning in Springfield to say I will be a governor for Springfield and a governor for Western Mass. I will work to convene and lift people up. I'm proud to be here today, joined by my friends and supporters, Representative Gonzalez, Representative Ramos. You know, I thank folks like Josiah Gonzalez. I look at Yvette. I look at people that I met years ago when I was running in 14. I made the case to you then that I would be the people's lawyer, and I promise I will be the people's governor. That's what this is about. You know, I never grew up wanting to be a politician. I grew up in a small town. My mom raised the 5 of us alone after my folks got divorced. I played a lot of basketball to keep myself busy. I waitressed my way through high school and college. I ended up going to law school because I wanted to try to help people, and then out of the blue, in 14, I ran. And I made that office to be about the people of the state, fighting foreclosures and evictions in Springfield, trying to spread grants to deal with opioid use disorder and mental health issues. I want to fix our workforce. I want to fix childcare. I want to invest in transportation and housing and infrastructure. I'm a point guard, so you know I love being in Springfield, right? It's like Mecca. But I promise the job of a point guard, the greatest statistic is an assist. The greatest thing you can do is be a playmaker, make things happen, get people working together. That's what we're going to do in Massachusetts. That's what we're going to do in Springfield. I'm here today to ask for your support, your endorsement in this caucus, and I hope you join our team in the weeks and months ahead. Let's go out. Let's go do this. Also, Cheryl Coakley-Rivera, Register of Deeds, thank you. Another baller. Thank you for your support. Thank you, Jesse.
Thank you, AG Healey. We'll now move to the candidates for Lieutenant Governor, and our first candidate, again, we're going in alphabetical order by last name, will be Mayor Kim Driscoll.
Hey, good morning, everyone. I'm Kim Driscoll. I'm the mayor of Salem, Massachusetts. Thrilled to be with you today. I thought I would share a little bit about my background and why I'm so enthusiastic about this race. My dad actually is a native of Lynn. He was a career Navy guy. I'm a full-fledged Navy brat, born in Hawaii, lived on all coasts. He met my mom while he was in service. She's a native of Trinidad. And I was fortunate to be one of 4 girls that traveled around the Commonwealth. I came to Salem to go to college, fell in love with the city, fell in love with my husband, Nick, who is a second-generation union bricklayer. We like to tease that he's putting his political science degree to good use, throwing in brick and block throughout greater Boston. Together, we've raised our 3 kids in Salem, Delaney, Eilish, and Nicholas, and feel really fortunate to be part of a welcoming and inclusive community. This is not my first foray into local government. I had the good fortune to work for the city of Chelsea as they came out of receivership. First as their chief legal counsel, and then as their deputy city manager. Really taught me the value of good government, and frankly, who pays the price when there are failures in leadership. And it's usually the most vulnerable among us. Proud to be part of a team at Chelsea City Hall that helped restore confidence in the city, helped engage residents, and bring renewed investment to that community. Seeing a need for action in my hometown of Salem, I ran for mayor. Intent on improving city finances, addressing some long overdue challenges we had around infrastructure needs, working hard to keep that welcoming and inclusive community in place. I've been fortunate to be reelected 5 times, and today Salem is a hip, historic, vibrant destination for visitors and residents alike. 3rd busiest destination in Massachusetts from a visitor industry perspective. We didn't do it alone. We did that work together with the Commonwealth, recognizing that we need cities thriving. The reason I'm excited about the opportunity to serve as Lieutenant Governor is I see an opportunity to partner with our next governor as a mayor and brings a great deal of experience for what's happening on the road, where the rubber hits the road, and tackle some of our biggest challenges. Now look, I know some of you don't know me. I'm from Salem. That plays way over on the other part of the state. But what I do want you to know is I really care about the work of local government. In my mind, it's the most important way we expend resources to make your lives better. We educate kids, we keep neighborhoods safe, we invest in parks, in places that you make memories, beaches, downtown squares. But you can't do it alone. There's a symbiotic relationship. We need a thriving Springfield, we need a thriving Chicopee, where I just came from, we need a thriving Holyoke, where I'll be next week, in order for our Commonwealth to be thriving. And it won't happen unless there's leadership at the state that recognizes that cities matter. It's the work that I love, it's the language I speak, and as your Lieutenant Governor, I want to partner in a way that's different. That's not just a liaison, that's not a sympathetic ear on the other end of the phone when your courthouse is falling apart and not serving your needs. It's someone who's a strategic ally, who wants to prevent problems, who wants to recognize the assets we have at the local level and empower them. The role of Lieutenant Governor, along with a strong governor, can be a convener so that your voice alone is not the only one trying to bring economic investment here. And I know that because as mayor, we've had success when we've partnered. One mayor, one city, even the best well-meaning can't do it without a success at the state level. We need investment, we need technical assistance, we need know-how. As a mayor, I've been on the front lines, from COVID response and recovery, trying to address climate change, long overdue challenges and questions around race equity, trying to keep our community affordable. Salem used to be a place you could pour coffee and pour beer for a living and afford a roof over your head. That's no longer the case. And strengthening public schools. Look, I chaired the Salem School Committee. Kids have been some of the biggest, and we're in a school. Kids have been some of the biggest victims of this pandemic. Educators feeling like they're checked out. And what we're doing in terms of how we're going to address that next, well, we're doing it one city and town at a time. We've got some of the greatest minds in education in this Commonwealth. We should be working together, providing opportunities, a menu of choices for those of us at the local level to work and take the know-how that we have and ensure that next September, we're doing something that's going to better serve kids, better address educator burnout. That's the work that I hope to do as your next lieutenant governor. I know you don't know me, I'm not the hometown gal, but I care about what happens in every city in this Commonwealth. I think there's an opportunity for us to lift up every corner of this state, and I hope to do so as your next lieutenant governor. Would be thrilled to have your support in this race. Thanks for giving me a few minutes to learn a bit more about me. Thank you.
Our next candidate for lieutenant governor, State Rep Tami Gouveia.
Hi, everybody here in Springfield and folks on the Zoom. It's an honor to spend a few minutes with you this morning. I am State Representative Dr. Tami Gouveia, and I'm running for Lieutenant Governor because I believe that we deserve leaders in the corner office who are putting our health, our well-being, and our dignity at the center of decision-making. I grew up in the city of Lowell, and I was very lucky in that my grandfather had been in the Carpenters Union. That put my family on solid economic footing. It meant that my parents were able to buy a two-family home. They rented out the upstairs apartment. That allowed them to stretch their wages and weather the economic storms of the 70s and the 80s. That was not the case for far too many of my classmates, friends, whose families struggled with the impact of intergenerational poverty, xenophobia, and structural racism. It was being close and adjacent to those experiences that inspired in me a desire to give back to my community. It's why I've been a public health social worker for the last 25 years, leading on issues that impact families here in Springfield and all across the Commonwealth. Those two key issues for the big part of my career, I focused on substance use disorder and opioids and environmental justice. I'm now a sitting state representative, which I've been in office for 3 years. And as a state representative, I have stood up and stood with our working families. I have stood up for racial justice and LGBTQ rights. And I have passed 3 key pieces of legislation. First, getting fentanyl test strips out to people all across the Commonwealth who are addicted to opioids and other substances. It's an effective harm reduction tool to prevent opioid overdoses. The second, addressing buildings as a source of greenhouse gas emissions so we can get serious about tackling the climate crisis. And the third is passing legislation to make investments in greening our transportation system and making it more reliable and more affordable for our working families. I've been living for the last 14 years as a single mom. So the financial struggles that so many families face every single day are ones that I have lived with. And I'll tell you folks, if you've never lived financially insecure, you do not know how scary it is, how shame-filled it is, how isolating it is. But I have lived that, going to bed worrying and wondering what's going to happen the next day if my car breaks down. How will I get myself to work? How will I get my kids to school? I had to learn how to steal from Peter to pay Paul because I was underinsured and carried medical debt, like far too many of our working families, particularly those who work 2 and 3 jobs or in the gig economy. Trying to figure out how I'm just going to get through the day living in inhumane housing. As your next Lieutenant Governor, I will put the health, the well-being, and the dignity of every single resident at the heart of decision-making, drawing on my personal experiences, drawing on my work as a social worker and as a state representative, and now I'm a doctor of public health. I will take all of these experiences to focus on health, well-being, and dignity as we continue through COVID response and recovery, making sure that it is just and equitable, living up to the promises that we made to our children and future generations to invest in equitable education funding, making sure that we are addressing the mental health crisis so that every person can access treatment if they need it, and making sure that when we talk about affordable housing, that we are also making sure that that housing is humane and fit for families to live in. I am Tami Gouveia. I humbly ask for your support in this race for the next Lieutenant Governor. No state has ever had 2 women serving in the corner office. I believe Massachusetts can be the first to achieve that. Yes, you can clap for that. Yes, I agree. Thank you. We hope to earn your support here at the caucus and through the convention. I've been to Springfield 4 or 5 times. I look forward to coming back more again throughout the coming months. Thank you, everybody, for being here. Be well and stay safe.
Thanks, Rep. Gouveia. Before we move on to our next candidate for Lieutenant Governor, our Vice Chair, Shanique Spalding, has let me know we have some elected officials on virtually. So first, we'd like to thank and welcome virtually my colleague, City Councilor Tracy Whitfield. We'd also like to welcome from the Democratic State Committee, Bruce Samuel Adams and Chuck Battle. Our next candidate for Lieutenant Governor that will be speaking is State Senator Adam Hinds.
Thank you, Counselor. And hello, Springfield. How you doing today? You ready to participate in a little democracy? I'll tell you what, I'm happy to be here, mostly because it's State Senator Adam Gomez's hometown and his district. I am honored to have his support in this race. It means the world, because you all know this, you elect him every time. He's the guy, when he walks in a room in the State Senate, people listen, and he's a fighter for the region and for all of you. So I just want to, but you know that. I currently represent all the Berkshires, part of Hamden, half of Hampshire, half of Franklin, and I'm running for Lieutenant Governor because I'm convinced this is a rare moment when we can make a generational leap towards equity. Equity by race, by income, by region. For far too long, Western Mass in the 413 hasn't gotten the investments it deserves. And with a Lieutenant Governor from Western Mass, we'll change that. And we'll make sure that for far too long, when we've had some neighborhoods that aren't getting the attention they deserve, and parts of the state that aren't getting the attention they need, that will change. I spent nearly 10 years in the Middle East with the United Nations, involved in negotiations in Iraq and Jerusalem and Syria. And it really, nothing prepares you quite like that for standing up for this region, for taking on the big issues. It's like when you're standing toe-to-toe with the foreign minister of Syria and exchanging, doing exchanges in a ceasefire negotiation, it prepares you for the next big step here in Massachusetts. I always wanted to come back home. And so, I saw my dad, I grew up in Franklin County. My dad was in a tool manufacturing company in Greenfield, and as the economy shifted, he had to go back to school at the age of 50 to become a teacher and a coach and a proud MTA member. And I'll tell you what, he's 80 years old. It's 11 on a Saturday. He's probably in a gym somewhere helping someone with a jump shot. And I've taken all of these experiences with me when I went to the state Senate. And I've been working on transportation and making sure that Pittsfield was connected by New York so that we could have these economic links. When kids in my district face enrollment decline, I've created a new line item in the state budget. And I'll tell you what, when you represent most of Western Mass, you want to make sure that everyone has a voice, and I'm going to be that for all of you. I'll close with this. I recently became a dad, and that changes everything, right? You're taking on climate change with the urgency of now, but certainly for the next generation. And you're fighting so that this generation can experience social and racial justice differently. My son is a part of the migration story. My wife, Alicia, is Mexican-American, and her grandfather came to the U.S. and drove trucks his entire life so that she could have every opportunity available to her. And she's now a professor up at Amherst, knocks it out of the park every single day, and yet that type of intergenerational mobility is almost non-existent according to the data. I want to change that. I want to stand up for every person in this Commonwealth, make sure that everyone feels that sense of opportunity. So thank you for giving me a few minutes. I'm so glad to have the support of Senator Gomez, and have a good caucus. We need you all right? So have a good day, and thanks for your time.
Before we hear from our final candidate for Lieutenant Governor, I am hearing from folks in the audience that they're having a little bit of trouble hearing. So if you're having a private conversation, we'd ask that you take it into the hallway. I will repeat, if you are having a private conversation, we'll ask that you take it into the hallway. And if you do not take it into the hallway, I will ask you by name to take it into the hallway. That's right. Okay? Okay. Love you all. Our final candidate, no stranger to the Springfield Democratic City Committee of the City of Springfield, State Senator Eric Lesser.
Can everybody hear me? All right. Well, thank you so much, Jesse. Thank you, Springfield. It's so good to be here. I want to introduce myself. I know most of you, but my name is Eric Lesser. I'm a state senator, of course, from Western Mass, and I'm running for Lieutenant Governor. And I just first want to say, I want to thank the people of Springfield for trusting me and putting your faith in me over the last 8 years. You took a chance on me when I ran back in 2014. We had some big dreams, including connecting our state by east-west rail. And I just want to say the faith you've put in me over the last 8 years has not gone forgotten. And I hope that you feel some level of confidence in the work we've done together. Don't hold it against me, but I'm not originally from Western Mass. I was born in Queens, New York. My dad grew up in the Batchelder Street projects of southern Brooklyn. Most of the people he grew up with had tattoos on their arm. They had survived the Holocaust. My mom, she grew up in a third-floor walk-up apartment in New York's Little Italy. She shared a bed with her grandmother, not a bedroom, a bed with her grandmother until she was in her mid-20s. My parents met at City College in New York, which was called the Working Man or Working Women's Harvard at the time. They paid $54 a semester. So when we think about community college and state college today, even adjusted for inflation, we ask young people to pay a lot more than $54 a semester to get their schooling. We moved to Western Massachusetts with my family because that's where the jobs were, and that's where the opportunity was for us. And over the last 8 years, we've been working on a set of issues collectively that I will get done in partnership with our next governor. At the height of the pandemic back in 2020, and I see Carlos here, we work very closely on this legislation. We helped get hundreds of millions of dollars in aid directly to the smallest businesses, bodegas, dry cleaners, daycare centers, community restaurants. We wrote into that legislation that the money first had to go to minority-owned businesses, immigrant-owned businesses, and those in our lowest income zip codes and communities, because those were the communities hardest hit by the virus. At the height of the opioid pandemic, and I just want to see a show of hands. Raise your hand if you or a loved one, a neighbor, a friend of yours has suffered from opioids or from substance abuse or substance misuse. Almost everyone. Back in 2015, I led the effort to get a Narcan bulk purchasing program passed that brought the price of Narcan down by more than 2/3. Springfield has been a participant in that bulk purchasing program. We helped get thousands of doses of that life-saving drug into the hands of teachers, school nurses, daycare and athletic center workers, police, firefighters, and EMTs, saving hundreds of lives. And I'll just close by saying this. For the last 8 years, we have been working with a lot of familiar faces in this room on connecting Springfield and Boston by high-speed rail service. We were laughed out of a lot of rooms when we first brought this project up back in 2014, and of what it would mean for the people of Springfield and for the families of our region. Today, it is on the 20-yard line. It is in the Biden infrastructure bill, thanks to the leadership of Chairman Neal and our entire federal delegation. The missing piece is a governor and a lieutenant governor and a MassDOT, State Department of Transportation, that puts rail service and that puts Springfield at the top of the agenda. I pledge to get this project done. We will get this project done when I am in office. And I'll just close by saying, Western Mass is my home. A lot of people have asked, just walking around, I think there's some confusion. People say, oh, Lesser, does this mean you're moving if you win this job? Absolutely not. I've got 3 young kids. A lot of you know them. Many of you know my wife, Allison. She's got a law practice in the city. We're not going anywhere. We will make it work, staying right here in Western Mass. And maybe for a change, we're going to have some people come do some meetings and do some events and do some focusing here for a difference. So I ask for your support for my campaign for Lieutenant Governor. I ask for your partnership as we continue this work, and I'm very excited to continue to elevate our agenda and bring some really exciting things forward for our families. Thank you so much, and thank you, Jesse, for a great meeting.
Thank you, Senator Lesser. Before we move to our next candidates, Shanique's let me know also attending virtually is Daryl Williams, representing State Rep Bud Williams, and also attending virtually is, I believe, nope, it was Daryl Williams representing State Rep Bud Williams, and also candidate for State Senate, Jake Oliveira, is here as well. Jake Oliveira is with us in the room. We'll now move to our candidates for Attorney General. And our first candidate will be former Boston City Councilor Andrea Campbell.
Let me adjust the mic. Mic check 1 2 1 3. First of all, it's great to see everyone, and thank you all for being here and taking part, frankly, in this process. I really appreciate it, and I also appreciate those who are on Zoom as well for participating. I'm Andrea Campbell. I am a candidate for Attorney General and excited to be here with you. I jumped into the race, frankly, recognizing that many residents in Massachusetts continue to struggle, are very worried about whether or not they're going to be able to survive, thrive, and prosper coming out of COVID. At the same time, they feel very frustrated with government. But what I also know to be true is that we live in the best state in the nation, a state with such potential and promise, and I know it because I've lived it. My entire life was filled really with a lot of instability, especially my childhood. When I was 8 months old, my mother actually died in a car accident going to visit my father, who was incarcerated at the time. My father and my brothers cycled in and out of the prison system and died and my twin brother, Andre, would die 10 years ago while in the custody of the Department of Correction when he was only 29 years old. I am frankly living proof that a girl who grew up in public housing and a family torn apart by poverty and incarceration and trauma could turn that pain into purpose. I've dedicated my entire life as an education attorney representing children for free in education cases, especially students with disabilities, as an attorney for Governor Deval Patrick, as an attorney at in general counsel at a regional planning agency that covered 101 municipalities in Massachusetts, pushing for regional equity, which I know is still a major issue, and as a local elected official in Boston, pushing for what? To make sure that every single family in Massachusetts had access to the same opportunity I had, so they too could prosper and thrive. And so I'm running for Attorney General because this office is more than just the chief law enforcement office. It has all the tools, the resources, the talent, the human capital to make sure that every single family and their children have access to an excellent education. Every family has access to health care, physical and mental. Every family has access to a living wage, to benefits, tools to stay in their home, to buy a home, to grow their wealth. Of course, to make sure that every family is living in a community that is safe, that is also prepared for the next climate event or the next pandemic, is more resilient and more connected. All the tools to deal with any racial disparity in any system that you can think about, and that's just the beginning. And that's what's so exciting about this race in particular. I know you're going to hear from a lot of candidates, but pay attention to the AG's race because it has all the tools to help you in your daily lives in ways you probably don't even know. And so this is just the beginning. I hope to get out there and earn your support. I will be back. When I kicked off my campaign, I started in Boston. The same day I left, I went to Worcester and I went to Springfield. Later on, I had the honor of several folks in this room, but I got to give Ayanna a shout out for hosting a Zoom conversation with over 50 people of color and leaders, including elected leaders. I'm looking at Denise and Justin and many others. A senator was on to talk about what we can do in partnership now. So I hope to earn your support in this race. I'm not taking anything or anyone for granted. Thank you all for being here. Hope to earn your vote in the caucus process at the convention in June and of course in September. And thank you for everything you're doing in your communities. I plan on spending a lot of time in Western Mass, including Springfield. Thank you all very much. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We also want to recognize my dear friend, School Committee Woman Latonia Monroe Naylor is here. And on Zoom, School Committee Woman Barbara Gresham is with us, as well as State Committee Woman Jillian Hinkson. Our next candidate for Attorney General, and just to give you a little time check where we're going, we have 2 more candidates for Attorney General, a candidate for Secretary of State, and candidates for Auditor. So we have almost every statewide elected official elected candidate with us in Springfield this morning. We want to give them their time to address the caucus, and then at the convening of that, we'll move into the ward rooms to elect delegates. At this time, we will welcome Attorney Shannon Liss-Riorden.
Hello, Springfield Democrats. It's so great to be here today. My name is Shannon Liss-Riorden. I'm running to be your next Attorney General. I'm going to talk to you for a minute about what I've done and why I'm running for this office. But first, I'll tell you, I'm a labor lawyer, and today I am a multitasking mom, like so many of you. I just hopped on a 7 a.m. flight back from New York to be able to be here with you this afternoon because my daughter ran yesterday in the National Indoor Track Championship, and I had to see her. And then after I do a few more of these today, I'm going to be hopping back on a flight to New York because my son is running in the Indoor Championship tomorrow. So with that said, I'm so happy that we're able to be here with you today. I have been a labor lawyer for my entire legal career. I have spent my career taking on the biggest challenges and delivering big results for regular people. I have used my legal degree as a tool to improve people's lives. For the last 23 plus years, I've represented workers of all kinds. I have made national headlines leading teams of lawyers taking on some of the largest corporations in America, and time and again, we've beaten the odds. We have won against corporations like Starbucks, FedEx, Uber, Amazon, IBM, my alma mater, Harvard University, which I have proudly sued at least 4 times. I have represented all types of working people, from waitresses to janitors to construction workers to firefighters to Uber drivers to strippers, and helped them recover hundreds of millions of dollars that corporate America stole from them. This work has changed industries across Massachusetts and throughout the country, and I am proud to have spent my career fighting for the people, against the powerful, and winning. And that's exactly what I will do for you as your next Attorney General. I know how to use the legal system to make progress on the toughest issues facing us, from fighting racial discrimination, to standing up for gender equality, to protecting the dignity of work. Now, I see this race as a job interview, and I ask you all to please consider my background, my skills, my experience, my passion, and my unparalleled record in delivering meaningful change as you are picking the next lawyer for the people of Massachusetts. I am the only candidate in this race who has represented working people. I am the only candidate who has been a practicing lawyer. I have won the jury trials. I have won the appeals that have helped shape our law to better and more fairly serve the people. I'm the only candidate who has run a law firm. I have been effectively working as a private attorney general for the last 20 years, and now I'm ready to take my service to the next level. I am so proud and honored to have received the endorsements of a long and growing list of labor unions. In the last week alone, our campaign has received the endorsements of more than 20 unions representing more than 50,000 working people across Massachusetts. I have been called the workers' champion, and now I'm ready to be your champion, Massachusetts champion. My name again is Shannon Liss-Riorden. I'm running to be your next Attorney General. I humbly ask for your support today. Thank you so much, Springfield Democrats.
We'd also like to recognize candidate for state representative. Janae McDonald is with us as well. And our final candidate for Attorney General is Attorney Quentin Palfrey.
Hello, Springfield Democrats. It's so nice to be back with you here today. I grew up in central Massachusetts, and I understand how often Beacon Hill neglects this part of the state. I'm going to be an attorney general who represents the entire state. It's so nice to look around the room, see some friendly faces who supported me when I was the 2018 Democratic nominee for lieutenant governor. I'm a former assistant attorney general, and I've seen firsthand how much impact the AG office can have on people's lives. So I was the first chief of the healthcare division when we were implementing Massachusetts health reform. And we tried to make sure that everyone had access to high-quality, affordable health care. I also had the great honor to serve in the White House under President Barack Obama, who was an extraordinary leader. I was his senior advisor for jobs and competitiveness. And on day one of the Biden-Harris administration, they asked me to come and be the acting general counsel of commerce, lead a team of several hundred people, and help launch this Build Back Better agenda. after the cruelty of the Trump administration, it's been such a relief to have a little sanity in the White House. But Washington's broken, and we'd be foolish to look to Congress for the solutions to the really big problems we face. Racial injustice, the climate crisis, attacks on our democracy, attacks on workers, attacks on Roe v. Wade and LGBTQ rights, student loan debt, housing insecurity, gun violence. For the solutions to the really big challenges, we're going to have to lead right here in Massachusetts. As a former Assistant Attorney General, I've seen firsthand how much impact the people's lawyer can have on our lives all across the state. As the people's lawyer, the AG, can bring consumer protection cases against predatory lenders, against scammers, against pharmaceutical companies like Purdue Pharma and the Sackler family, whose lies brought us the opioid crisis that's devastated so many families. The AG can also bring much-needed urgency to the fight against racial injustice, the murder of George Floyd, the Kyle Rittenhouse verdict. These are just the most recent reminders that there are two justice systems in America. We imprison too many people for too long, for doing too little. Race has too much to do with who ends up in the criminal justice system. The AG can bring urgency to the fight against the climate crisis, the fight against attacks on workers' rights and reproductive rights. I spent a lot of my career on voting rights. I founded a national nonprofit called the Voter Protection Corps, and even after an armed mob stormed the Congress to try to disrupt peaceful transition of power, even still, Mitch McConnell and Joe Manchin are going to block meaningful reforms. So that means democracy begins right here in the Springfield Democratic City Committee. It begins with state leaders like the AG fighting back for our democracy, and that's what we're doing here today. Thank you for caucusing. Thank you for being part of our democracy. I would be so honored to earn your support for Attorney General, and I want to join with you to build a grassroots movement across the whole state to take back our democracy and lead on the issues that affect people every day. So I'm Quentin Palfrey. I'd be honored to earn your support for AG. Thank you for having me here today, and thank you for caucusing.
All right, we're moving into our final speakers before we head to our conference rooms. We are doing pretty good on time. We'd like to be in the conference rooms by 11:45. It's 11:25. We're not going to be speaking for that long, though. So our next candidate, we'll be hearing first from the candidates for auditor, and we'll ask them to come up together, but they will speak in alphabetical order. We will welcome first auditor candidate Chris Dempsey, followed by State Senator Diana DiZoglio.
Good morning, Springfield Dems. How are we doing today? Do we have any Springfield Central basketball fans in the audience today? I know the boys team and the girls team are both doing great, and it hurts me a little bit to say this, but y'all beat Brookline by 30 points this week. I played at Brookline High 20 years ago and also lost in the playoffs, not to Springfield Central, but by about 30 points. So I'm having flashbacks from that. But I'm wishing you guys very well against CM tonight and also on the girls' side, and hope you guys both bring the state title home. I'm Chris Dempsey. I'm running to be your next state auditor. And I'm running as the son of public school teachers. I saw my parents digging into their own pockets to pay for school supplies for their students. We know teachers across the Commonwealth do that to this day. I'm running as a proud Massachusetts resident, proud of the firsts we've had in our state, the leadership we've shown. But I know we've fallen behind on everything from transportation to racial equality. And I'm running because I've seen that when decisions in state government are made with a lack of public accountability, that those decisions benefit people who are well connected on Beacon Hill, but they don't benefit families like mine and like yours and the people we've met on this trail from Pittsfield to Provincetown. I'm running to be your next Chief Accountability Officer, and I have the background, the experience, and the toughness to do that job for you. I served as Assistant Secretary of Transportation for Governor Patrick. While I was there, I co-founded the MassDOT program that made Massachusetts the first state on the East Coast to make smartphone apps available that tell you when your PVTA bus is going to arrive in real time. Proud of that record of reform within state government, and proud that Governor Patrick has made a max contribution to our campaign, his first max contribution to any candidate running for office in Massachusetts in over a decade. But I've also worked outside of state government to protect the public interest. In 2015, the most powerful business and special interests got together behind closed doors, and they hatched a plan to bring the Olympics to Boston in 2024. And as exciting as that was, when you read the fine print of that contract, you saw that it required that we built all the most expensive Olympic venues and that we as taxpayers cover 100% of the Olympic cost overruns. Springfield, if you liked the big dig, you would love the Boston 2024 Olympics. Now, we stood up against that effort, and in a living room, I co-founded a group called No Boston Olympics, and we got outspent 1,500 to 1. But we were successful because we had the facts on our side, and we built that grassroots effort that included many of you. And my takeaway from that effort is when you put good data and information in front of the voters of Massachusetts, we make smart decisions. And fundamentally, that's the role of the state auditor, to dig into the executive branch, to figure out what needs to change, and then to make the case to the public so that we can build a stronger Commonwealth together. As auditor, I'll make the office a national leader on climate and environmental justice by making it the first in the country to incorporate carbon accounting into our audits of state agencies, and we'll create an Auditor's Commission on Environmental Justice so that communities like Springfield are represented in the auditor's office as we're thinking about environmental reform on the front lines. We'll also tackle tough issues like reform of the state police. I honor the service of our troopers on the front lines. We lost a trooper this week on a highway in eastern Massachusetts. But those troopers deserve to work for an agency that they can be proud of and that we as taxpayers and residents can be proud of and can trust, and we don't have that today. We need more reform in that agency. I live in the first floor of a triple-decker about 2.5 blocks from where I grew up and where my parents still live, with my amazing fiance, Anna. And Anna and I are looking forward to starting a family together. We want that to be in a Massachusetts that is the best that it can be. That means making state government the best that it can be by making it more transparent, more accountable, more efficient, and more fair, and that's why I'm running for auditor. I thank you for being a part of this Democratic Party process. Thank you to Chairman Letterman for bringing us all together in person for this amazing opportunity. Again, I'm Chris Dempsey, candidate for state auditor, and go Springfield Central.
Chris texted me the score from the game the other night and said how excited he was to come to Springfield after the loss that they took in Brookline. Our next candidate for auditor, State Senator Diana DiZoglio.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning, everyone. Hey, it's a great morning to be here in Springfield. I love coming out here. I love hanging with y'all. I want to just say, first and foremost, thank you for all that you do for all of us as candidates. We can't do anything we do without you, so thank you, thank you, thank you for hearing about why we're running for office. My name is Diana DiZoglio. I'm a current state senator. I want to give a shout out to the state delegation here, who I've been able to have the humble opportunity to partner with for the last several years. I see Senator Gomez is here. I see Representative Oliveira is here. I saw Rep. Ramos was here earlier, Rep. Gonzalez, and I think Rep. Williams as well. But I just want to say thanks to your state delegation for their support of my candidacy in this race. A little bit about myself. I was born to a 17-year-old single mother in the greater Lawrence area. Grew up housing insecure and waitressed and cleaned houses to pay my way through our local community college. From there, I was able to earn scholarships to become the first in my family to graduate, but without the investments of others, friends, I would not have had the opportunities that I did. I was blessed. So knowing that really inspired me to give back to my community in whatever way I could. And since I couldn't do so financially, I decided to get into community service. As a childhood survivor of domestic violence, I wanted to work specifically with young teen girls who had also survived domestic violence in the home. So I lived in a teen girls' home for a while as a live-in mentor. I also worked at Girls Inc., running their after-school programs, and I also served at the United Teen Equality Center in the city of Lowell, working with inner-city youth, expanding their diversity, equity, and inclusion programming. Now, simultaneously through these years, I was also continuing to wait tables and cleaned houses, which was the way I paid my way through community college. As many folks know, you might love what you do for a day job, but it doesn't always afford you with the opportunity to live in the community that you're working in. So I was juggling all of these different positions, and it was during that time that I got offered a job working at the State House. I will be honest with you, I had no idea what the State House was all about. Legislature was not part of my vocabulary. The word constituent was not part of my vocabulary. It's one of the reasons why I've been such a passionate advocate for civic education in our public schools. But I got the job, and I went to go work at the State House, and it was like drinking water from a fire hose. I learned about all the great things that our state legislature can do, from investing in our public schools and higher education and early intervention programs, to fighting for housing opportunities for all. We all know that we're in a housing crisis, to fighting against climate change, to fighting for diversity, equity, and inclusion in our state contracting. I learned about all of these great things. But I also, during my very short time working in that building, many years ago, learned about how state government can also operate on the flip side. During my time working there as a younger woman in my 20s, I was sexually harassed in our own House of Representatives. And the way that it was thought appropriate to deal with that harassment was to require that I sign a taxpayer-funded, paid for by everybody here, non-disclosure agreement that required me to be silent about everything that I had seen, witnessed, and experienced behind those closed doors at our State House amongst our most powerful politicians in Massachusetts. But I didn't let them get rid of me. I didn't let them keep me quiet, and I didn't leave state government like they told me to do. I instead decided to run for state rep myself, and a little over a year later made my way back into that same chamber as the youngest woman serving in the House of Representatives at the time. Thank you. Thank you, friends, because when that happened and I got elected, y'all just heard my story, right? This was never something I was planning on doing, but there I was, elected to serve my community, and I knew it was incumbent upon me, I knew it was my responsibility to fight with everything I had to make sure that other families in our communities who, like my family was, have either been ignored or dismissed or disenfranchised by a system in state government that's just not working for everyone the way that it could and should, is held accountable. I took on that battle regarding those taxpayer-funded non-disclosure agreements. That's a fight that I took with me to the Senate, where I'm so proud to say that thanks to the support of my colleagues in the Senate, like Senator Gomez, we have been able to pass a complete ban on the abuse of those agreements that silence workers about abuse in our government. But friends, our Republican administration right now continues to dig their heels in on hiding abuse, discrimination, and harassment of workers of all kinds across our state government. And it doesn't stop there when it comes to the abuse of your tax dollars. During the shutdown alone, we remember when the administration funneled precious vaccines and the millions in tax dollars that accompanied them to mass vaccination sites and to friends in the private sector with no bid, no RFP contracts, instead of reinvesting those vaccines and those dollars back into our local communities where families could get equitable access. As a result, our elderly are immunocompromised, are disabled. Those without transportation suffered as a result of those decisions. As a senator, when that happened, I stood up, I called for accountability, transparency, and for a full audit into the millions of tax dollars that was spent. When the Holyoke Soldiers Home tragedy occurred and we lost 77 veterans due to the mismanagement at that home, it took a Boston Globe Spotlight team investigation to uncover the fact that this administration had actually come before our panel and told falsehoods about what really caused that tragedy. When that happened as a senator, I stood up and demanded that the administration come back before us under oath for accountability. One last example, when McKinsey Consulting continued to be contracted with, despite the fact that they were found guilty in helping Purdue Pharma and the Sackler family cover up their contributions to the opioid crisis, which has devastated countless families across our communities, including mine, and I'm sure many of yours. Our Republican administration continued to contract with this company in the millions of dollars. As a senator, when we found that out, I stood up and I demanded this administration stop wasting our tax dollars on a company that has proven to abuse our trust, but also contributed to the devastating impacts of the opioid crisis. As state senator, I've been standing up, I've been speaking out, I've been calling for audits, I've been demanding investigations. This is now my 10th year serving in the legislature, fighting for equity and accountability. But as your next state auditor, I won't need to keep calling for audits or demanding investigations. I will audit and I will investigate these matters and much more on your behalf. Because if there's one thing that I learned as a self-employed house cleaner through the years, it is that sunlight is the best disinfectant. And for as forward-thinking as we are here in Massachusetts, our state government, unfortunately, continues to be ranked as the least transparent state government in the entire nation. We can do better, but in order to do better, we're going to need to start shining a light in those dark areas of state government and then working alongside of each other to fill the gaps that we identify through that good work. I can't do this without you, friends, so I do want to say I respectfully and humbly ask for your support in this race. I am Diana DiZoglio, state senator, and once again, candidate for auditor. I'm going to hang out just a little while out here to talk with all y'all as you make your way to your caucuses. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Senator DiZoglio. And now our final candidate remarks will be made by a new friend, candidate for Secretary of State, Attorney Tanisha Sullivan.
Good morning. All right, we're still strong in that voice. This is good. I am Tanisha Sullivan, candidate for Secretary of State. I grew up in Brockton. I am the daughter of a public school educator. My dad spent 40 years working in the Boston public schools. And my mom is a small business owner. She started 3 businesses from our home in Brockton. As Jesse shared, I'm a practicing attorney. I'm now in my 20th year of practice. I'm the former chief equity officer of the Boston Public Schools, and I have the honor of serving as the volunteer president for the NAACP in Boston. I am running because in this moment, we need more. We need more from, yes, our government, but we need more from ourselves. We need more of us filling rooms like this to build the type of democracy that we all deserve. The war in Ukraine is one of the most recent reminders that the fight for democracy continues, because the fight in Ukraine is a fight for freedom. It is a fight for self-determination, and it is a fight for the values and principles of democracy. And the reality is that at a time when the world is looking for a beacon, the U.S. cannot stand as a beacon. Last Sunday, we commemorated the 57th anniversary of Bloody Sunday. A reminder for us here in the United States that the fight for voting rights continues, the fight for inclusive government continues, the fight for all of us to be seen and heard continues. I know firsthand both the great opportunity that exists in our democracy, and I know and understand her failures and what it's going to take to solve them. And what it's going to require is for our country to have a beacon in democracy. I believe that Massachusetts can and should be that beacon, but it is also going to require leadership. Leadership that is courageous, inclusive, and visionary. Leadership that understands that the work of government is not just about administration and transactional business, but it is truly about opening up opportunities for all of us. As Secretary of State, I shared with you I'm a civil rights leader. And so there should be no doubt that I will work tirelessly to not only protect our voting rights, but ensure that we are advancing voting rights here in Massachusetts so that the rest of the nation can see how it's done. But protecting and advancing voting rights is not enough. We do need to ensure that we have safe, secure, and inclusive elections. Much has been said about the 2020 voter turnout. Across the country, we saw an uptick in voter participation. But those are the aggregate numbers. The reality is that in communities like Springfield and Worcester and Haverhill and Brockton, where I'm from, we have deep economic and racial gaps in voter participation. We don't celebrate record turnout in voter participation when too many of our communities have been left out. That requires a democracy that is more connected to us as the people. And so as Secretary of State, my commitment is to work in community, not from an armchair at Ashburton Place, but in community, to ensure that we are cultivating a culture of civic participation where we all see and understand our role in this thing we call democracy, so that government isn't happening to us, but it's happening with and through us. Democracy is community, and community is the people. And until we have a democracy that from the ground up has communities working together, building together, believing together, hoping together, solutioning together, we will not have the full promise of America, which is freedom, justice, and equality. My last point here might be new for some folks, but it's so important. A strong democracy is one where we have economic opportunity and economic prosperity is experienced by communities as a whole. Massachusetts has some of the deepest economic inequality in the country. But we have some of the greatest economic prosperity in the country as well. The Secretary of State's office today is the place you go if you want to start a business, register your business, file your annual reports, pay your fees. That's the beginning and the end of it, transactional. You're on your own. Why? I believe that the Secretary of State has a responsibility to help tackle economic inequality in the Commonwealth, and can do so by serving as a gateway for businesses, specifically small, micro, Main Street businesses, the ones that are owned by our friends, our neighbors, the ones like my mom's, connecting them to the resources that are available in community. Whether those are government resources, or they're nonprofit resources, or they're community-based resources. None of us gets a pass in this moment. We need a Secretary of State's office that understands that this is people work. We need a Secretary of State that understands that when we move forward together, we all win. I'm committed to delivering that. But most importantly, I'm committed to delivering that by working with you. I'm excited about this campaign. I hope to earn your support at the June Democratic Convention and at the ballot box in September. But most importantly, if you raise your hand to be on Team Tanisha, it's a commitment to rolling up your sleeves beyond Election Day to ensure that Springfield is a beacon in Massachusetts. It's a commitment for all of us because this is our democracy. Thank you so much, Jesse. Thank you. I greatly appreciate the opportunity to be with you today.
Thank you, Attorney Sullivan. Ladies and gentlemen, we will now move to the most important part of today, which is electing delegates to support these candidates at the convention in June. I do want to thank Kathy Molta, who's here on behalf of Secretary of State Bill Galvin, as well as Michael LaNava, who's here on behalf of State Treasurer Deb Goldberg, who could not be with us today, but we appreciate their representatives from being here. Please listen carefully for the instructions. For individuals participating on Zoom, you will be automatically assigned to your Zoom breakout room based on your ward that you checked in with at registration with Shanique. And thank you to Shanique for all the work she's doing on Zoom. You'll be automatically assigned to your ward breakout room. Please sit tight until your chair joins. For everybody in person, you'll exit the doors to your left. You will turn left. You will head down the hallway. Ward 1 will be in this hallway on the left. For everybody else, proceed all the way down the hallway to the fork, to the T, and there will be a sign directing you to wards 2 through 8. Your ward chairs will conduct the remaining portion of the caucus. We once again thank you for your attendance, your participation. We are not done, so please make sure you head to your ward. You must have been registered by 10:45, which will be signified by a blue name tag with your name and district on it to run as a delegate or to vote as a delegate. So please make your way now to your caucus rooms by once again exiting through these doors to my left, turning left, and heading all the way down the hall. You'll find Ward 1 is in this hall on the left. You will find wards 2 through 8 at the end of the hall on either the left or on the right. We will make sure that everybody is in their wards before beginning nominating. Ward chairs, please head to your ward rooms now. Please fire up your computers. Please ensure that you log on to our Zoom link that it was emailed to you. You will be assigned to your breakout room automatically, and you will be made a co-host of your breakout room. Please utilize your guides that were included in your packet to participate and carry out the remaining portions of the caucus. And thank you once again to all of our candidates who turned out to speak and to all of you who have turned out to run as delegates to the 2022 Massachusetts Democratic Convention. One more piece of housekeeping for myself, very important for those of you that may still be listening. I want to thank my wife, Amelia, who was up with me at 10 o'clock at night last night printing ballots for this nominating convention caucus. Could not do this without you, so thank you for all you do for our city. Once again, at this time, it is very important that everybody exit the room to the left and head to their caucuses.